is a quote that sums up my belief about choices by J.K. Rowling in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. It's our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. I believe our choices are driven by necessity, by our passions and our hopes, and far too often by our fears. When making a career choice, there may be some fear that needs to be overcome. There were a series of career choices that I made that led me to the path I'm on today. When I was at university, I wanted to be an archaeologist, and I was just fascinated by ancient civilizations. I knew that if that was going to be my career, that I would have to have a PhD. And I also knew I didn't have the funds to get one. So I thought the quickest way to make money would be to move to New York City and become a model, which I did. I was very naive and very, very lucky. I worked in New York and then on in Madrid and London. That was a choice made from necessity and hope. The hope that I would get enough money to go back to school. By acting in TV commercials and small parts in films, I was fortunate to be able to move into the film business. About that time, I realized that I was going to let go of the archaeology because I found that I loved working with live people. There was a problem though, because at the same time I realized that as an introvert that I hated being in front of the camera. So my fear of being in front of people drove me to explore what I could do behind the camera. Ultimately, I became a casting director because I loved working with actors, helping them to empower themselves to be the best they could be, to show up as confident, to help them find ways to manage any nervous energy that might be getting in their way. So it started out as a choice from fear, happily for me, turned into one of passion. For actors, choices are crucial to their success and to getting the role. Every time actors audition, they are being judged on how interesting, how creative, how unique are their choices. In this instance, what choices means are the actors bringing an authentic piece of themselves to the role, or are they just saying lines? And when you ever watch a movie, the actors, if any actor is not being authentic, it's jarring. For the audience, it just pulls you out of the scene. And that applies to even the smallest little one-line parts. I once auditioned over 30 actors to find an actor who could comfortably on camera say, "Hi." And it actually is a little harder than it seems. Very often the smaller parts are auditioned by inexperienced actors who think this is their big break. So they make a moment out of it. So it is not authentic. So the best actors are those who know themselves, are in touch with their feelings, and choose to let the audience see that vulnerability. Directors sometimes choose to cast outside the trained actor pool. They call this finding real people, like actors aren't real people. So what happened on Breaking Bad, there was a scene that called for 3 Spanish-speaking laundry women standing outside the laundry, which was the front for the meth lab. And Vince Gilligan, the showrunner, by the way, on television, is the person who's the executive producer, the head writer over all of our other writers, and very often will direct many of the episodes. So Vince Gilligan had been shown all the actresses in like a 5-state area that would be appropriate for the roles. and just didn't see what he was looking for. So we spent several days going to every laundry across all of Albuquerque auditioning real laundry women. We finally found 3. Some slight problems, though. Not one of them spoke English, and it did take some working to get them over their fear of saying scripted lines on camera for the first time in their lives with a crew of about 50 or 60 people watching them. They ended up doing great. And I often wondered what their choices were in taking those jobs. One, I think, was possibly from hope of doing some new and interesting thing that they could tell their kids or grandkids about, but also probably necessity. For the day, they were paid SAG scale, which is Screen Actors Guild scale, and the minimum scale is $800 for the day, so each one of them had a pretty good day that day. Many, many years before that, I worked on the original Dallas TV series, which was a primetime soap opera. Some of you here may remember it. Some of you may have seen the newest version that I think just went off the air recently. Anyway, in the early days, when the season of the series was just starting, they did not have much of a budget. So while they were on location in Dallas, I ended up sharing the office with the executive producer. They didn't call them showrunners then, with the executive producer and one of the writers. And so I was privy to everything that was going on that chaotic summer. And why it was chaotic, this was when they filmed the infamous Who Shot JR series, that episode. And what this caused, this was really the first cliffhanger on television that was such a phenomenon, and it actually propelled the show to be an instant hit. The money hadn't trickled down yet, but it was a huge success. And what happened because of this, people from all around the world were calling in, wanting to bribe us to tell them who did it. And there was gambling everywhere. It was just wild. And while this was all going on, Larry Hagman, who was originally he was hired to be one of the co-stars. They had a big cast, and he was the co-star. Well, because of his amazing portrayal of J.R. Ewing, the public promoted him to be the star. And this happened about the same time his contract was due for renegotiation. So this was an opportune time for him, and he asked for the highest pay that any actor on television had ever received for episodic television, and got on the plane and flew to London to wait it out.